Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a literal medical revolution. We're looking at how scientists are using umbilical cord blood stem cells to completely conquer thalassemia. We're talking about going from just, managing a lifelong genetic illness to potentially curing it altogether. Let's get right into it. Okay, so picture your red blood cells like a massive fleet of microscopic delivery trucks, right? They're relentlessly carrying oxygen to every single tissue in your body. Now imagine for a second what happens when that entire fleet just breaks down. When that system fails, the physical toll is immense. It's exhausting. And historically speaking, it's been incredibly difficult to manage. Section 1. What is thalassemia? So, what exactly are we dealing with? Thalassemia is a hereditary hemolytic anemia, meaning it's passed down through families. At the cellular level, the main culprit here lies in the globin chains, basically the building blocks of hemoglobin. Imagine a factory assembly line, right? But you've got way too many left wheels and absolutely zero right wheels. Because this production is genetically unbalanced, the red blood cells that do get built are defective. And the crazy part? The body literally destroys them faster than it can even make them. And the fallout from this is huge. To just survive, severe cases require relentless, ongoing blood transfusions. But here's the catch. Pumping that much outside blood into the body introduces this massive, toxic buildup of iron. That means patients also have to go through frequent iron chelation therapy just to flush all that excess iron out. It's this agonizing, endless loop. We're not just talking about a physical burden here, it's a massive emotional and financial strain on the families and a really heavy demand on our healthcare systems overall. Section 2. Treatment methods. Now, traditional treatments like those transfusions and chelation we just talked about, they're basically a medical compromise. Sure, they successfully transform what used to be a fatal childhood illness into a chronic, manageable disease, extending a patient's lifespan significantly. But survival comes at a really steep cost. Decades of this relentless treatment cycle ultimately lead to severe comorbidities, basically other serious illnesses that just pile up over time. It leaves doctors desperately searching for a true, lasting cure. Well, enter stem cell transplants. Over the last 30 years or so, they've become the ultimate hope. For young patients who are lucky enough to find a perfectly matched sibling donor, the event-free survival rate skyrockets. We're talking an incredible 80 to 90%. And it gets better. The mortality rate for this specific group drops to under 10%. It's borderline a medical miracle when everything aligns. But here's the reality check for adult patients. It's a much harsher picture. For adults with severe thalassemia going through those traditional bone marrow transplants, that event-free survival rate drops way down, falling below 70%. The older the patient gets and the more advanced the disease progression is, the harder it is for that traditional transplant to actually succeed. And that brings us to the tragic bottleneck of this whole process. To safely pull off a traditional bone marrow transplant, doctors need a perfect HLA genetic match, which almost always has to be a sibling. But perfect matches, they're incredibly rare. And without one, a huge number of young, totally eligible patients are left completely out of options, just stuck. Section 3, the cord blood solution. This is where the paradigm just completely shifts, 90%. By harvesting stem cells from totally unrelated donors, cells stored in umbilical cord blood banks, the disease-free survival rate is now approaching 90%. Think about that. We are rapidly closing in on the absolute best-case scenarios of conventional bone marrow transplants, but we're doing it with unmatched donors. So why does this work so incredibly well? Honestly, it boils down to flexibility. See, traditional bone marrow requires a super strict genetic match. And even if you get it, there's still a really high risk of graft versus host disease, or GVHD, which is where the new immune system literally attacks the patient's own body. No thanks. Cord blood, on the other hand, is way more forgiving. It needs far less strict genetic matching, and clinically, it triggers a much lower incidence and severity of that immune reaction. It makes the whole transplant dramatically safer. The biology behind this is absolutely fascinating. These cord blood stem cells, they're biologically younger and just straight up superior. They have a way higher capacity to create new blood cells, they multiply faster in a lab, they respond incredibly aggressively once they're inside the body, and the best part, they literally just wait in deep freeze, sci-fi style storage. They are ready to go the exact moment a patient needs them, with virtually zero risk of transmitting any infectious diseases. Now, yes, to be fair, the patient does still need immunosuppressant drugs before the transplant so their body accepts the graft. But the long-term payoff? It is staggering. This therapy fundamentally rewrites a person's future. It effectively transitions severe thalassemia into a highly manageable condition, granting patients a lifespan of 50 years or more. That is literally decades of life they simply wouldn't have had otherwise. And the ripple effect of this science is truly global, because we don't need those perfect genetic matches anymore, and because we can just use unrelated donors from global banks. Cord blood is an absolute lifeline. It's a game changer for ethnic minorities and patients in developing nations. These are places where advanced medical resources and perfectly matched donors are, sadly, painfully scarce. Section 4, the future outlook. Okay, so what's the catch? Well, the biggest hurdle right now is sheer volume. An umbilical cord is tiny, right? So the amount of blood you can collect is naturally limited. To prevent the transplant from failing, the patient needs a massive, highly specific dose of these cells. We're talking at least 35 million total nucleated cells, or TNCs, per kilogram of the recipient's body weight. Hitting that specific target is everything. It's absolutely crucial. But the good news is, clinicians are actually finding ways to exceed those minimums. The data shows they are consistently hitting high averages for both total nucleated cells and CD34+ stem cells, which are the specific cells vital for building new blood. Being able to deliver these incredibly high doses is exactly what forces the patient's body to accept this brand new healthy immune system. So you might be wondering, what if one cord just isn't enough, say for a larger adult patient? Well, scientists are getting incredibly creative to beat these dose limits. They're pioneering double unit grafts, which is literally mixing two partially matched cords together. They're also using intra-bone injections to completely bypass the bloodstream and inject the precious cells straight into the bone marrow where they are needed most. And amazingly, they're even multiplying these stem cells in laboratory petri dishes before the transplant even starts. All of this complex biology and scientific ingenuity really boils down to one simple goal. We aren't just trying to extend a line on a medical chart here. We are striving to give these patients a truly normal, high-quality life, a life completely free from the exhaustion of being tethered to regular blood transfusion backs. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought. With all these incredible biological advantages, the looser genetic matching, and survival rates actually hitting 90%, are we standing at the dawn of a totally new era? An era where banking umbilical cord blood isn't just some luxury option, but a universal essential in our global fight against complex genetic diseases? Really makes you think. Thanks for exploring this amazing science with me. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.